Hello, my name is Peter Walker-Birch with yet another video podcast for Clinical Placement 1. Now I hope you are all well on this lovely Saturday, despite the intermittent inclement weather that we seem to be having. I have to say it was lovely seeing you all yesterday at the tripartite revision session. I hope the session with both Phil Cosson and myself was useful preparation for your summative tripartite assessment. Now, this week's podcast is really a recap on the learning materials and revision material that has been provided to you so far as parts of Clinical Placement 1. There is also a new quiz which will help you to prepare for question 5 of the tripartite, which is the very last question of the tripartite. As you can see from the introduction, this week's theme is that of the Crystal Maze. Now, this is another iconic British TV game show that was originally produced for Channel 4 way back in 1990. It was hosted by the great Richard O'Brien, who some of you may know from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You may not. Anyway, this was a musical comedy horror that was co-written by Richard O'Brien, along with another chap called Jim Sharman. Now, it featured a very popular song called The Time Warp, which some of you may have heard of. My son certainly heard of it because there's now a Doctor Who version. Now, I'm obliged to say that I wasn't a big fan of the Rocky Horror Show, certainly given my personal proclivities for crosswords, real ale, poetry and the music of Richard Wagner. But my flatmate at university was besotted with it. So much so, he would get dressed up in his knickers, bra, stockings and suspenders, believe it or not, and go to see it whenever the show came into town. Now, I have to say, it all came as a bit of a gentle shock to me when my flatmate first got dressed up, as I never realised he had a wardrobe full of women's clothing. But that's what I love about life, really. It's full of surprises. Really interesting people that do the seemingly silliest and strangest things, myself included. Long may it continue. Vive la décadence, as the French would say. Now, the Crystal Maze actually features 4 different zones, set in various periods in time and space, like the Aztec zone, for instance, or the Industrial zone. Now, a team of 6 contestants would journey through these zones, solving a variety of puzzles to win crystals, time crystals, which were then used to buy time in the Crystal Dome. Now, each crystal was worth about 5 seconds in the dome. Once the contestants were in the dome, they had to collect gold tokens and avoid collecting silver ones to be sure of winning a prize. Which was normally some kind of adventure-related prize like bungee jumping or something like that. Now, the medical imaging Crystal Maze has 5 zones, not 4, with each zone sort of concentrating on a specific question of the tripartite assessment. Now, the idea is to sort of provide you with an overview of the learning materials that will help you to revise for your tripartite. Now, the last zone contains a new quiz, so keep tuned. It'll be following shortly. It is now academic week 5, and there are now only 6 weeks left of your first clinical placement. There are no more scheduled activities for you to engage with in the module guide. So your time now can be spent, should you wish, revising for the tripartite, which takes place on the 5th of September 2014. And you will be given some more information near the date. Now, I hope that you have all now managed to complete your first clinical bipartite with your mentor and are now getting ready for your second and last bipartite. I hope too that you are making good progress on getting your clinical competencies signed, as well as getting your examination booklet signed too. There is still plenty of time, so don't panic if you haven't managed to get a particular examination. If you want to let me know how your bipartite went, just drop me an email or a tweet, as usual, at the usual address. It has been a bit of a sad week this week as the multi-talented and incredibly funny Robin Williams apparently took his own life on the 11th of August. Now, I first came across Robin Williams in an American TV sitcom called Mork and Mindy, in which he starred as a sort of an extraterrestrial alien who visits Earth from the planet Orc in an egg-shaped spaceship. Nano. But I will always best remember him as the inspirational, unconventional and gifted, very gifted new English teacher called John Keating in the 1989 film called The Dead Poets Society. Not least because of the poetry in the film and the references to a particular poet called Walt Whitman, who is a great American poet who also featured prominently in the Breaking Bad series, you might recall. Now, the film also inspired me to want to teach, believe it or not, all those years ago. So I have a lot to thank Robin Williams and the Dead Poets Society for, not least because I am now extremely fortunate to be teaching at Teesside University as a university lecturer in the medical imaging team. A fantastic team, by the way, which I never thought I would ever achieve. So here's to you, Robin Williams, or Captain, my Captain. My only advice to any of you really is the advice from the film, which I try to live by, which is carpe diem, which means seize the day and make your lives really extraordinary. Now, I'm sorry to say that I won't be putting out a podcast for a couple of weeks, probably, as I need to spend next week looking at producing a module guide or some module guides for revalidation of the MSc course. I'm also on annual leave the following week in Scotland, in a caravan somewhere, I think, somewhere near Loch Lomond, and without Wi-Fi access, apparently. Gutted. So I hope to see you in a couple of weeks. Anyway, I should like to just finally say good luck for the next couple of weeks on clinical placement. I hope you have a fantastic time. What is going to follow now is the material for revising for the tripartite with the theme of the crystal maze. So enjoy. Please do let me know what you think of the material that I've produced. If it's useful, you can do that by either drop me an email or a tweet as usual. So bye-bye for now. There are 5 zones in the medical imaging crystal maze. The first of these is the positioning zone. In terms of revision, take a look at the Blockbusters quiz on radiographic terminology. There are 79 questions in total that look at a number of common terms used on radiography requests and reports. You've also been given terminology to engage with for radiographic positioning, anatomy, disease and referral criteria in the practical lab workbook and the lab worksheets for clinical placement 1. This should help to complement the radiographic and positioning terminology that you are using in the clinical practice setting. The second zone in the medical imaging crystal maze is called the evaluation zone. Take a look at the CD-ROM that you are all given at the start of clinical placement 1. This has a number of radiographic studies for you to practice image evaluation using the DOG system. You will need to be familiar with radiographic anatomy. You have already been provided with labelled images via Blackboard to complement your learning of radiographic anatomy. More detailed information has been provided to you on the DOG system via the X-ray console on the Blackboard site. This material complements the information already provided to you in the practical lab sessions for clinical placement 1. Take a look at the countdown quiz on fracture terminology 2. there are 40 terms for you to engage with to complement your growing knowledge of radiographic imaging terminology. The third zone in the medical imaging crystal maze is called the justification zone. Take a look at the deal or no deal quiz on justification of radiology requests. There are 26 requests for you to justify, which should help to complement the clinical reasoning skills you are already using to justify medical exposures in clinical practice. The fourth zone in the medical imaging crystal maze is called the alternative zone. Take a look at the University Challenge quiz on alternative projections and alternative imaging. There are 40 questions for you to answer that deal specifically with alternative modalities and additional or modified projections. This quiz should be used to complement your growing knowledge of alternative projections and imaging that you observe in clinical practice. The last zone in the medical imaging crystal maze is called the safety zone. It will focus on health and safety and the principles of radiation protection. It is also the focus of this week's quiz, which will follow shortly. There are 22 questions in this section, which will help you to focus on a number of issues pertinent to the last tripartite question. This quiz will concentrate specifically on consent, legislation, and LMP. A copy of the 22 questions can also be found in the Learning Materials section of the Blackboard site. Answers will follow next week. So, without further ado, good luck and let the fans begin!